Something that I see all the time at the golf course that really, quite frankly, bothers me a lot is how people spend their time on the putting green and a lack of time on a putting green. Speed control with putting, in my opinion, is one of the easiest skills to have or to obtain relative to the other skills, right? Like driving the ball 300 yards, the majority of people just aren't, it's not going to happen. Not everyone's going to hit the ball perfectly solid all the time or as tight of a dispersion pattern all the time, okay? Speed control with putting doesn't take a ton of talent, right? It's more just time on the green. And even if you're not going to spend a ton of time on there, right, how many shots does the average golfer waste three putting when they play because their speed's off? And that's a pretty easy fix, dude. It's just like, that's how much time do you spend? But if you're going to spend the time, let's just talk about a little bit of what you could do. I think if you spent 5 minutes a couple times a week, if you could, before you play or just practice-wise, and you don't even have to do the speed drills that we recommend, right, with the games. I would recommend doing the speed games and drills that we talk about for long-term development, right? But if you're not going to do that, you could still gain a lot, right, just being on a putting green. The first thing I would always do when I'm speed putting is just putt fringe to fringe, right? And not judge myself for it. Just get a sense of, hey, what I'm doing right now, the ball's going short all the time or long all the time, or here's what I'm observing, and then what do I need to do to adjust, right? And there's really no right or wrong with it. There's certain guidelines I want to talk about, but I would just pop a couple balls down and just kind of go fringe to fringe. I'm going to go from here and just putt to the side of the green and then say, okay, well, that ball was pretty good or it was short or long. And then maybe I'll go down here and putt and over here and just spend a couple minutes doing that. Now, if you go putt and you notice a tendency over and over again where you're short all the time or long all the time, there are certain things you need to look at, right? To keep it pretty general, two things I would look at. One is the stroke length. Okay, your stroke length doesn't have to be the same back and through. A lot of guys are shorter back, longer through, or longer back, shorter through. It doesn't matter, but there's tendencies you're going to have with that you need to know. If I'm a person who swings the club short back, okay, for me to get the ball to a target, I either have to swing fast through or very long through. Now, if you match that up, that's okay. If I swing very long back and it's too far for that target, I either need to go slower through and or shorter through, and probably both, and I can match that up, that's okay. When you get too far on either side, it's a little bit harder. I would try and get a little bit more neutral, okay? Maybe when you putt a little bit, you use a metronome timer. That's something we use that's very simple. Put a metronome timer, earbuds in your ear, and putt fringe to fringe, and you see a noticeable difference. The point being, your bang for your buck, in terms of shots you can save and how good you can get, is gonna be a lot easier than hitting a driver 300 yards, right? Or hitting the ball perfect all the time. Takes a lot less talent to get good at this area, so let's not waste the time with it. If you guys have any questions about how to do this, there's a million different games and drills you can do, but even if you just do fringe to start would be a good starting point.